Everest Live. How's it going? It's May 27th, and the last summit push of the 2026 Mount Everest climbing season has come and gone. We are looking at the official end of what is not yet officially, but very likely the most crowded season in Everest history. Let's start with what we saw today on the summit. According to Kim Lal Gautam, our main source at Everest Base Camp and the Department of Tourist official spokesperson there, who also happens to be a two-time Everest summiter, the guy who measured Everest using modern devices, and a good friend of Everest Live who gives us information. He said that there were over 30 summits today, despite cold temperatures and high winds up high. People were motivated to get to the top today because the icefall doctors are going to start taking apart the Khumbu icefall on the 29th. So for them to be able to get down through the icefall in time so they don't get stuck at Camp 2, they needed to summit today. Amongst those people are our friend and mentor, idol, inspiration, Kristin Harila. Kristin made it to the top of Everest without supplemental oxygen, thus completing her triple crown goals for the season. She didn't do the triple crown without supplemental oxygen because she used it on Lhotse, but she did climb Nuptse and Everest without it. Congrats to her. She was also accompanied by Ming Themba Sherpa and Pasang Dukpa. Ming Themba not only did the Triple Crown with Kristin, he also summited Everest twice because he was part of the rope fixing team. He is one of the strongest Sherpas out there. Give him a watch and a follow on Instagram if you want to see what the Sherpa boys are up to in terms of being really strong and badass in the high Himalaya. He's certain to do some pretty incredible stuff in Pakistan in about a month when everybody heads over there. Other people, there was a gentleman named Gexi Luori, who's from China, and he climbed Everest and Lhotse twice in the same season, up and down, and then up and down again. That sets a new record. And I think that's kind of it for the major records today. We did see summits from Summit Climb, from Fortenbach, from Elite Exped, from Madison Mountaineering, from Seven Summits. So it was a big day to sort of finish the season. All those climbers that had been like hedging their bets, waiting for the last weather window. Today, it all came down to the wire, and they did what they had to do. Thankfully, so far, we haven't heard any news of major injuries or rescues that could come through in the next few days. But from what I've heard on the mountain, everything is hunky-dory, or at least as hunky-dory as it gets above 8,000 meters. Mingma David Sherpa, who many of you may know, Nepal's member of parliament, co-owner of Elite Exped, he summited today after basically going straight from base camp up without acclimatization rotations because he didn't have time given his busy schedule as a parliamentarian in Nepal. Strong dude, and congrats to Mingma David. Here in Kathmandu, it's like Everest sort of conference season. It kicked off this morning with the Everest Summiteers Association annual sort of conference, if you want to call it, get together. And there was a breakfast with the president of Nepal, who hosted it for everyone in the Everest Summiteers Association, followed by a day of speeches and networking. For the rest of the week, we're going to see all sorts of stuff, especially on May 29th, which is Everest Day. There's like 4 different things happening in Kathmandu on that day to celebrate Mount Everest, followed by an ascent summit put on by the U.S. Embassy on May 31st. If you're in Kathmandu, come by the ascent summit. That's probably the only one of these things that I'm actually going to go to because they asked me to host a panel discussion there. So if you want to come say hi, that's where I'm going to be. But in other kind of interesting news, I guess the last hanging chad on all this is Carl Egoloff and Tyler Andrews. The fastest known time record. Both these gentlemen have come back to Nepal for the second year. They're trying to get the fastest time from base camp to the summit, and in Carl's case, back down again without using supplemental oxygen. As we talked about previously, sort of controversial because Tyler Andrews made a bid on the 25th when he used supplemental oxygen and continued upwards, trying to beat the record instead of with oxygen. And even that he didn't succeed at. But then there's a whole question of, because he used oxygen, does it count? Does it not count? And also with that, it came out today in Explorer's Web that he actually took a helicopter from Camp 2 down to base camp. Again, he's using every device available to him, but in the purest world of Everest mountaineering, where you take care of yourself and you take your time, people are wondering what that means for Tyler and his record should he set it. Both Tyler and Carl are being super hush-hush about everything. I'm guessing we are only going to hear from both of them again once the season's over and they've done their thing. It's very possible that they're on the mountain right now and they just haven't told anybody. So what that does is it wraps up a season with, according to, again, our friend and resource Kimlal Gautam, that we're going to see potentially over 950 summits this year. And that's only from the Nepal side. We don't have information about the few sort of research expeditions that were allowed on the north side in China. But that makes this, by a fair bit, the biggest season in Everest history. And it's quite a milestone. Thankfully, we've only seen 5 deaths. I don't want to be trivial about those who have lost their lives, but given the volume of people on the mountain, it's a quite incredible number. So that's it for today. Tomorrow we will maybe be filling in. Maybe we'll be able to talk to Kristin or Justin. Maybe we'll be able to give you some more cool information about what actually happened up top on the mountain. Maybe we're going to hear from Carl and Tyler. Stay tuned until we have more information. And until then, coming to you from Kathmandu, it's Ben Ayers with Everest Live. Thanks everybody for tuning in.